Listen, let's not kill our profits as day traders, and that's exactly what revenge trading is going to do. So it's a topic for, yes, day trading 101, being a day trader 101, whatever you want to call it. But even if you're not a beginner and you're having problems with your trading, you're being inconsistent, you're just not getting those results that you want to see, I have a sneaky suspicion that you're probably doing some revenge trading. And I understand a lot of people like, well, yes, I know, Clay, that revenge trading is not good. And that's great, and I'm glad you know that. But what I've also found to be the case is that it's hard to actually follow things that you know are not good. But it's much easier to do that if you know why they're not so good for you. And that's what I want to do here is I know revenge trading, if you've traded for even a little bit, you've probably heard, oh, revenge trading is bad, don't revenge trade, which is 100% a fact. But why shouldn't you revenge trade? Why does revenge trading kill your profits? How does it kill your profits? And why does it do it most of the times? Well, that's what I want to break down here with just a very kind of simple graph that I've already constructed here a little bit. But the graph revolves around this dynamic right here. Me drawing that line. So let's actually break down what that line is representing. Well, right here, we have not a whole lot of time. So you match that up to the chart, and you can see that, well, as far as reliability is concerned, if the further up we go, it gets less reliable. Well, we haven't gone up very far at all. So this would be, you know what? There hasn't been much time that's passed, which means that, hey, things are more reliable. But now let's take this to the extreme, and let's look at someplace over here. So let's match that up with down here. Well, in this situation, there has been a whole lot of time. And because there's been a whole lot of time that's passed by, there is now less volume in the market. That's just a basic and a well-known, dynamic of the markets is that the opening bell rings for the stock market and you have all sorts of volume. You have all sorts of crazy, but there is a bunch of volume. And then as time goes on, you get to lunchtime, then you get to the afternoon hours, and then at the tail end, there can be some bit of volume. But as a general rule of thumb, the more time that passes, there is the less volume. And because there's less volume, that makes things more choppy. And when things are choppy, things become, well, less reliable. And that's what we have here. Look how far we are up now. And that has to correspond with, again, well, there's been more time that's passed by. And because there's more time, there's much less volume. And now because there's less volume, things become more choppy and things are less reliable, right? And I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, just trying to really emphasize that that understanding why revenge trading is so dangerous and why it's going to kill your profits, you don't have to have a PhD in economics or anything. So that's how that's all set up. But let's actually think about this. What is a revenge trade? So let's go on a little journey here, and we have, you go out there. So we have the person here. The opening bell rings, and he goes out, and this will represent his journey. He goes and, he makes a trade right here. Okay, he makes a trade, but let's just say that, you know what? It was a losing trade. Okay, well, the day's not over. So he continues on with the journey and right there makes a trade. All right, well, that's a losing trade. Now, just because you take a couple of trades, okay, that doesn't mean you should be done for the day, but nobody likes to lose money. Nobody likes to lose money a couple of times in a row. But you know what? Let's even just do this, just to really illustrate the fact. Let's say that right here, in between there is a win. So there is a winning trade within this trader's journey throughout the course of the day, but there is then that secondary loss. So inconsistency at best. So then to continue on, more time goes by. Do you see Do you see what's going on here, though? Maybe you already see what's going on within the context of this trader's current little story and journey here. But he goes out there and makes another trade. And once again, in that situation, the trade happens to be a loss. You've been there, right? If you've traded, you know exactly what I mean. So he's going to go out there, and this is where I'm going to do another trade, or but there's that desire. But notice where we are within the context of the overall graph here. We are now getting into some very, very, very sketchy territory because the market's been open for a significant amount of time. And as we've already discussed, the more time that the market's open, the less volume there is, and the less volume there is, then things get more choppy. and then things just become less reliable. So think about it. You want to put on more trades when you're already not quite mentally ready, when your chart vision or whatever mechanism you're using to identify trades, for me, it's technical charts, but it doesn't have to be that way. But point being that when you are mentally starting to get gray at best, when you're mentally starting to bend the rules at best, I mean, let's face it, you're probably breaking them. But even if I say you're starting to bend the rules of your strategy at best, you're starting to get a little antsy. You're starting to feel all these emotions that aren't quite going to be conducive to making good, solid, well thought out trades. So all of that, I mean, think about it. How cruel is that? Because that's what revenge trading is in some form, is you're not even really following your strategy. You're bending rules. You're just kind of starting to try to force square pegs through round holes. So there's already plenty of sketchiness going on. But setting aside all of that sketchiness, simply put it in the component of now you're putting on a trade in just a more choppy area. In other words, let's actually assume that everything else is fine. You're following your rules, you're clear of mind, you have everything else you were following to A+. You get an A+ grade, a nice little smiley face sticker, because you're following everything so well. You're doing everything else perfect. But because the markets offer no guarantees, you can be doing everything else perfect, but you can still lose money just because, well, the markets are not, they don't offer a guarantee. But I mean, you're doing all that other stuff perfect, but then you're still putting in those trades during the times of the day where things get a little sketchy because of all the dynamics we've already talked about. Well, I mean, that can be argued. Yeah, you probably shouldn't even be trading there. Even if you have doing everything else perfect, you probably still shouldn't even be trading. But that's not the case, right? Because revenge trading, you're already bending rules. You're already starting to lose it up here. You're already starting to get a little too emotional. And then you're going to take all of that and put it into a situation where the general markets are already like, yeah, we're getting a little choppy. Yeah, we're getting a little sketchy. That's not good at all. But that's what happens, right? Because you got to make trades first to get to the point where you lose it. But as you're making trades, as you're looking for next trades to make, that clock is ticking and you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the day. And in many situations, by the time you finally reach that revenge trading mentality. Now, of course, in the heat of the moment, you're probably not sitting there saying, oh, I'm revenge trading right now. No, that's not how it works, right? At the time, there's things in your mind that are trying to convince you and trying to make you think that, oh, it's everything's fine. You're not bending rules. You're not emotional. You'll be just fine, right? That's because if you knew you were truly revenge trading, then you wouldn't do it per se. But at the time, you're going to have all this stuff convincing you that it is okay. But I am here to tell you from strictly a practical point of view, with the way the markets work as a rule of thumb, as a general rule of thumb, the deeper you get into the day, that time where you're going to start to feel and want to start to just, let me make one more trade to get the money back. Let me make one more trade to get back to break even. That's like the worst time to be trading because things are so not reliable. It's a choppy mess and it can create a whole lot of pain for yourself. And that's just the cruel irony of revenge trading and why it will kill your profits, because it's already bad enough in and of itself. But when it usually goes into place is, well, at some of the exact worst times you should be trading. So be aware of it. Yes, I know. Everybody's aware, oh, don't revenge trade, it's bad. But this is why it's actually so bad, because from a practicality standpoint, I mean, you're losing it mentally, you're losing it from a strategy standpoint, and then you're just throwing that. It's like the gasoline on the, bomb that is already starting to explode when now all of a sudden you're doing all this at just a bad time to trade, regardless of if you're following rules or not. But hopefully this can motivate you. Hopefully you just can kind of get the light bulb to go off about, wow, yeah, I really need to be just so much careful about revenge trading. And if I find myself wanting to put on trades and do this, that, and the other, and I look down at the clock and the market's been open a pretty significant amount of time, I need to just step away from the computer. I need to close it down. I need to go for a walk. I don't know, go lift some weights, hop on a spin bike. I don't know what you need to do. Hit the boxing bag. I don't know, play your piccolo. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to do something that gets yourself away from the markets, because you don't want to be revenge trading, because odds are you're already doing something stupid, but you're doing something stupid in a very bad portion of the market where things are just not even reliable to really begin with. But don't do it. Hopefully this helps. If you enjoy these videos, if you enjoy these kind of just little FYI type things, then a couple things to do. Hit that like button down below. And then also in the comment section, even if it's just a rainbow emoji, any sort of emoji, but hitting the like button and commenting really goes a long way in communicating that you like these sorts of videos. And as long as I know that there's interest out there for them, I will continue to make them. But yes, revenge trading, it will without doubt kill your profits. So don't do it. Be aware of it and avoid it at all costs. First off, thanks so much for watching the entire video. Real quick, before you go, I want to invite you to a live webinar, web class, training, workshop, online event, whatever you want to call it, but it will be me live revealing to you what I've discovered that has allowed me to transform myself from being an employee to being my own boss, including how I had only one losing day out of 73 days in total. I'm going to cover 3 keys that have helped me unlock profitable consistency within the markets. The first key is super weird, but in a productive type of way. The second key is super awesome because it quite literally is wired into our DNA as humans, making it very easy to use. But in a cruel way, this becomes a pitfall for many traders. I'll explain it all though, including how to avoid the pitfall that it creates for some. And yeah, the third key, when you hear it, sounds way too good to be true, but it's not, and I'll show you how it all works. Then at the end, I open it up for a question and answer session that is, again, totally live. Even if you can't make the live session, please still sign up as it will be recorded, and you can go back and watch the replay that I will send you. Click the image on the screen or click the link down in the description box so you can get the date and time and claim your spot, which I should note is limited due to the fact that this truly is a live event. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll be seeing you soon.